Welcome to the SPEAKPact podcast, where high-performing speakers and the producers who hire them merge to give you the insider secrets to the lucrative speaking industry. Antoniette Roze, your podcast host and celebrated speaker agent, unveils insider success strategies. Discover a nexus of thought leaders and bookers, maximizing your potential in each and every episode. Your ticket to ultimate speaking success begins right here. Catch the transformative insights waiting for you on the SPEAKPact podcast, hosted by the industry powerhouse herself, Antoniette Roze.
We're going to dive into the world of women's leadership and how Shelli Warren, our guest, has taken a message that she is very passionate about and has made a fabulous career out of just the power of her voice. We're going to walk through the journey with her, how she went from something that was important to her to really making it the cornerstone piece of her career. Actually, she's gone as far as creating a whole show around that, which we'll talk about that as well. So welcome to the show, Shelli.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Tell me the early beginnings, right? You've got a passion for women. You've got a passion for women in leadership. You developed these ways to help women rise in leadership. How did you go from that to now being a leading voice in the space?
Well, I've always been a coach in some way, shape, or another. I started out as a gymnastics coach, working with young girls in the sport, then morphed into dance as a dance coach. And then as I started my career, I was very intent on making sure that women in my local community had the opportunity for career advancement. So I worked in retail for a bit and hit the glass ceiling there, and then moved over into corporate. And along the journey of my career, I've always had an eye out to make sure that I was collaborating with other women to help them really have that leverage of another woman that was going to support her in her career aspirations. So 6 years ago, I joined a US-based brand, started working for them, built out the podcast, as well as intellectual property and a profit center. I recently purchased that back. So it is now mine. And it's really all about elevating those women in small business to make sure that they understand that as a small business owner, you're offering incredible career opportunities for other people in your local community, in your state, province, or your territory.
I might get myself in trouble here, but something you said triggered this. Early in my marriage, I guess my husband just thought, well, we don't need friends anymore because we have each other, right? Mm-hmm. And something early on I said to him was, babe, women need women. Men need women. Like everybody needs women, but we need each other. We're built to need other women. Right? We need that camaraderie, the wisdom that we can share back and forth. I don't know, that empathetic spirit. I don't even know. I'm probably going to get, please no hate comments, probably going to get myself in trouble here. But when a man gets married, it's more about that family unit. They're satisfied in that for the most part. Obviously, there's always the exception. But I can't ever imagine my life without having those other kind of sisters in place, those women in place. And the fact that you've really devoted your career with that understanding that by supporting women in leadership, they're going to rise further, faster, longer, right? What cued you in the early beginnings to, I mean, you could have focused, you were a woman leader, right? You could have focused in any number of areas, but that you were going to support women specifically.
Well, my mom is the oldest of 5 sisters. I am the oldest of all of the female cousins in my family, but I don't have a sister. And so when I was young, I was often farmed out by my mom to help other moms in the neighborhood with taking care of their children, including walking children to school and back. And I became a bit of a baby whisperer, really, really young. People were trusting me with their newborn infants. I made a lot of money during that because I was so trustworthy. And then as I got older and started becoming a gymnastics coach and a dance coach, and then moved off into the retail world and then jumped over into corporate, it really was about wanting to make sure that other women had other opportunities. And I think it had also something to do with the fact that I had brothers, and our house was always full of my brothers and their friends. So there was always this sense that my brothers and their friends had all kinds of opportunities. And as the only girl in the family, I did not. So I always wanted to make sure that I was loosening these restrictions, especially as I got older. And I really found it exciting in my corporate world to be in a role, in the many roles that I had, that were the first, like the first woman to have that role, the first woman to have that role. So breaking lots of glass ceilings within that male-dominated field within manufacturing was exciting, and it just kept fueling me.
Yes. And you know, probably more than most, because you are a prolific speaker, that as far as we've come in our societies, white males still get paid more for pretty much every position, including speaking. It's women can speak on the very same page. The very same stage, and for the very same length of time, and for some reason be offered less than the guy who's going to come up after her, right, and speak. I don't know why that is. It's something as an agent and an agency we face quite often, and it extends beyond women. It goes into any kind of other subset that isn't a white male. I don't know why. I'm certainly not against white males. They're amazing. There's amazing speakers, but why isn't the playing field level by now? So the work that you do behind the Stacking Your Team podcast, and I know that it's about more than women leadership, but that's a big through line through it. You're striking a chord, Shelli, obviously. I mean, you're in the top. There's over 3 million, my last check, there's over 3 million podcasts out there, viable, active podcasts out there. And you're in the top percentage of that. I think I read somewhere that you have over 500,000 downloads in just a few short 5 or 6 years. So that's pretty incredible. It means that you're striking a chord somewhere along the way. So to speak to that whole dynamic, why the heck are we still here?
Well, I find it very unfortunate because one of the things I learned early on working for a Fortune 50 corporation, I recognized really early that men got promoted based on potential and women got promoted based on performance.
Oh, wow.
So I learned early that as a woman, in order for me to continue to move forward, have the career that I wanted, that it wasn't good enough to demonstrate potential. I had to demonstrate outcomes. And now, as a coach for women who own small businesses, I'm teaching her that she needs to hire people that can deliver outcomes. We're no longer looking at potential. We're looking at proven performance and can they deliver the outcomes? Because I find in the world of small business and corporate too, that part of the struggle when we have mediocre teams is that they truly don't understand what they're getting paid to do. They really don't. They really do not understand what it is they're getting paid to do. And so I like to offer tools and frameworks that strip all of that down so that every single person on the team, regardless of how big your team is, regardless of the type of business that you have, but every single person needs to know what they're getting paid to do. And what we all get paid to do is to deliver outcomes. We're not getting paid for what we know. We're getting paid for what we do with what we know. And that can be really motivating in the world of small business, because then that can parlay over into her offering career opportunities versus simply a job.
Yes. All right, then how does that woman who's out there with a powerful voice, right? She's those who listen to this show, they are high achieving. They've got letters behind their name, or they've really achieved a level of success in business, whatever it might be. Those are the ones who tend to visit this show, and now they're ready to step out in a new way and get their voices out there in a bigger, broader way. What are some of those first steps that a woman can take? Number one, to prove, to perform and prove, right? Sadly, that's the routine. And so how does she break in and get somebody willing to take a chance on her, because she might not already be widely known yet as a sure bet speaker?
Well, I think sometimes we have to put our marketing hat on. So in the world of small business, whether we're posting for a new job opportunity, like you've got a role posting that's available in your small business, or whether you are the small business owner, you're the founder, and you're looking to pitch yourself to collaborate with another entrepreneur, or you're wanting to get those invitations to be able to speak on the stage, what we really need to do is figure out, okay, I need to put my marketing hat on here and position myself as their next best speaker. If you're looking to hire someone, you should be positioning yourself as their next best career move. So it really comes down to put your marketing hat on and paint the picture of how you are going to deliver outcomes for that event planner, for that major sponsor at that key event, for that individual that's looking to collaborate with other like-minded individuals. It's simply not good enough to just sit and hope that someone is going to notice you, someone's going to refer you, or that someone's going to just, stumble upon you one day. Like, we really do have to get out there and position ourselves in such a way that demonstrates, here's the outcomes that I can deliver for you. And own it.
Own it. Yes. Okay. So there's several things I'd love to unpack in there. Position yourself as their next best career move, right? Every organizer is biting their nails because one disappointment that they put on a stage means their job, right? They can lose their job over it. It's up to them. They're put in the position to put that within the budget that they have. They don't even care about saving a penny on the budget. They will spend every last dime that they have within the budget to get the right person on the stage. So your advice is to make yourself a sure bet, right? Position yourself in a way where you are the obvious choice to bring the goods for that organization. And as with that marketing mindset that you mentioned, it is intentional. You can't just assume they're going to see the value in you, right? You've got to show them.
And how that works is by you're the speaker that's looking to position yourself in a favorable light because you truly want to showcase, here's the outcomes that I can deliver for you. That starts with you being incredibly calibrated with what the outcomes are that event planner is looking for, or that major brand and sponsor is looking for, because it's simply not good enough to take your canned presentation or your canned talk and then try and just fit it in to this particular event. You have to do your homework. You literally have to do some research and ask some great questions about, what is it that you would like me to do? And keep asking that. Would you like me to do this? Would you like me to do that? I could provide this. Is that what you're looking for? It's just over and over and over again, looking to reinforce that what it is that you're getting paid to do if they hire you as a speaker. So what am I going to be getting paid to do? And how can I 100% guarantee that event planner that I will deliver those outcomes for her or him?
Intentional. Yeah, you do your homework.
Yeah.
You make yourself valuable. And that is another layer of positioning yourself. How amazing is that if I'm an organizer and someone's not just walking in kind of blind and they're going to wing it with their canned talk that they always give, but that they truly do understand my organization and they're going to make their talk, their IP relevant to my organization. Obviously, you're going to put yourself in a position of higher value when you do that. Yes, really, really excellent. What would you say about getting through the hard knocks? Because we're, being a speaker, like you said, it's intentional, which means it's a lot of blood, sweat, tears, elbow grease, right? A lot of no's, a lot of ghosted, like you might send emails out or leave voicemails and you're just ghosted. Like there's a lot of that. But then there's a lot of good that comes from it. Obviously, speaking is, to me, one of the most important, most impactful, and can be the most prosperous, among the most prosperous careers out there. But it doesn't just fall in your lap. So what is that kind of thing that can keep you going through the dry lands?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with setting some clear expectations for yourself that recognizes the fact that you're likely not Brene Brown. So therefore, it's very normal to start out at an entry-level relationship building role for that event. And over time, build that relationship up where there really is no other ideal person for that slot on stage, that you are it. You are absolutely the number one choice. But a lot of people, they want to start out at the top. They just don't want to have to roll up their sleeves. Whereas in reality, what they really should be doing is offering their services as a breakout table facilitator, as a door greeter, as someone who would act as an MC for the event, someone who would host a separate collaborative and interactive portion of the day away from the stage. So you're literally saying, I don't need the spotlight. I am very happy to be over to the side to look after these people that are here waiting in line. Can I do some sort of man in the street type interview with people as they're in line to get their beverages and their snack items? Is there a way that I could add value with my ability to connect with people and host a conversation that would add a lot of value for you and your audience, but that doesn't require a spotlight and a microphone? Like, what other ways can I show up looking like help to you? And for most event planners, they would love to have someone who could take a little bit of the pressure off of them to have these incredible little moments throughout the event that really do add value, but they're not center stage. They're not. They could be in the lobby, as I said, in the lineup, in the parking lot as people are coming in. I remember I went to a really big convention in downtown Toronto. It's the largest convention center in Toronto, Ontario. It was massive. It felt like you were walking a marathon just to get to where the doors were going to open. It was just massive. And I remember coming down the escalator with my friend. We were coming down the escalator, and there was this gentleman at the bottom of the escalator in this incredibly stunning designer mauve 3-piece suit, so well put together. And his entire role was to greet all of these women that were coming off the escalator and give them the right direction. Like, looking at their ticket. Okay, you're going to enter through this wing. You're going to enter through this wing. He was so cordial, so vibrant, so friendly. And I thought, that was genius, because you're offering so much value. Every single woman that came off that elevator before the event started, he's offering this incredible first moment of truth. The first person that they see representing the day and the host and the sponsors and the brands that are partnering was him. And boy, oh boy, was he ever impactful. I'll never forget it.
So excel through service.
Absolutely.
Yes. And on the flip side of that, don't be I was going to say a really bad word. Don't be a diva. We'll use that D word instead of the one I was going to use. But essentially, like, don't be difficult to work with. These planners, I've been on the other side. I was an event organizer. I produce very, very large scale events. There's a lot coming at you. And you have this maybe one headache of a person, right, who's just screaming over the wrong style of chair or something, just making your life miserable over something so tiny. Be flexible. That's something that I've coined along the way, that a flexible speaker is a booked speaker. And you add to you add value to the organizer by being great to work with. You add angst to the organizer by being difficult to work with. And so basically you said that in a nutshell, and especially in those early days, but really even when you're a recognized name, be delightful to work with, not difficult. And not only will you get more invitations to speak, but you'll also have a much more devoted fan base, because at some point you're going to be found out for being jolly on the stage and a jerk off the stage, right?
Yes,
so I love that you
absolutely.
brought that service piece in, and that can be different for each one of us. I've emceed before, and it was at an event that I also keynoted at, and I could have said emceeing. I'm a keynote. What are you talking about? But I actually had fun doing it and got to meet more people, actually got more exposure. But even if it's that kind of, there's an old story, it's an old parable that talks about, be the storeroom sweeper, right? So that one day you can own the store. Really similar. Don't think that you're so above it that you can't do those more menial or entry level tasks, even after you really have risen above that, because that really shows a depth of character that's going to be endearing. It's going to open up more doors for you. I love that you brought that. I don't think we've actually really spoken about that on this show yet.
It really is helpful. I mean, I've hosted many events in my day, both in corporate and as an entrepreneur. And the attendees and the speakers and the vendors that you partner with are not very well versed in how much lugging and slugging is required for setup
Lugging and slugging.
for setup and tear down. People do not realize what it takes to pull off this gorgeous aesthetic, this welcoming atmosphere. And so one of the things that I always volunteered for was to help with tear down. Because typically that's like when the event is over, people quickly disperse, right? So they're over here in clusters, exchanging contact information. They're setting up lunch dates. They're, exchanging pleasantries with people before they exit the building and go back into their life. And you look around and there's that event planning team, right? That smaller team that is now left with all of the lugging and slugging to get that vendor or that venue back to base, like back to it where they can hand it back over without the extra charges, that can suddenly get tacked on because this wasn't done properly and that wasn't done properly. So simply by going to the host or just the host team, someone on the team that you've noticed belongs to the host team, and saying, hey, I've got 45 minutes here before I have to leave. What would be the biggest thing I could do for you within this 45 minutes? Would you like me to pick up garbage? Would you like me to collect pens? Would you like to, what you tell me, what put me to work for this next 45 minutes. How can I help you? I've never met an event planner or an event team that said, No, thank you. We got it. Every one of them have all said to me, oh my gosh, that would be so helpful. If you could just take that back section of the room and grab the pens and the sticky notes and the highlighters and put them into that basket on that back table, that would be so lovely. Thank you so much. And it's not that you're there, you're doing this out of anything other than respect for the people that are hosting these events, because it's like anything, like until you do it yourself, you really don't have any idea of how much is involved.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh. Like I have stories, and that is, I honestly didn't invite certain pretty amazing speakers back because they were just didn't see the value of everything that went into creating that experience so that they had a great stage to step onto. So, okay, we have a message, and now we're building relationships through the spirit of service. Amazing. Now, how do I move from that to landing those keynote engagements or those paid engagements?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to having your credentials and what I would call like marketing assets, always ready, always up to date, have a number of different versions of those assets so that you can match your asset to that particular organization or that event. I mean, nothing is more frustrating than to have someone pitch something to you that is so obviously disjointed from what you're offering. It's just very off-putting, and it can get you on the no list immediately. Mm-hmm. And that's not the list that you want to go on. You want to move on.
It's hard to get off that no list once you're on.
Yes, you want to get on the maybe list. That's where you want to get to. You want to get on the maybe list or the curiosity list. Like, I'm curious about this individual. So having those marketing assets, but then also watching what this host and what this organization is doing out in the marketplace, looking for trends, looking to see what they're interested in, and then looking to find a way to offer something that could be of help. And it literally can be something as simple as saying, I'd be happy to host an informal handoff the night before in the lobby or in the bar restaurant as people are coming in early for the event. I want to make sure that your audience isn't feeling alone or just, like the fifth wheel. I'd be happy to host a photo booth for you. I'd be happy to be a spokesperson for you with the vendor that's running the photo booth. It's really about just looking and saying, what could possibly be stressing this event planner out? And how could I jump in to help them reduce that stress on them, while also just adding value and building the relationship with the person, showing them that you can be trusted, that you're reliable, that you are there to speak on behalf of that brand, that organization. It's not about you. It's about them, asking them for some key messages, like what would be some key talking points, or, if your audience get one thing from me, what would that be? And then follow through on it and do it. Put your money where your mouth is.
Follow through and do it, right? Follow through and do what you say you're going to do. That's a key nugget of gold right there. So often speakers will say, yes, I'll do that. Or yes, I'll be there. Or yes, I'll be there 10 minutes early so we can do a mic check, and they stroll in 2 minutes late, right? Do what you say you're going to do. And it is a world of over delivery. And that's okay, right? To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is unacceptable, right? Yes. Just keep some basic principles that you live by, and it'll go very, very far in your career. You said a few things I so resonate with much of what you're saying, because obviously I work with speakers, and some come with great marketing assets. Some come with very well done marketing assets, meaning their demo reel looks amazing, their sizzle reel looks amazing, their website, but none of them, they're all speaking different languages. So a confused mind doesn't buy, and there's no through line.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much money you throw at a piece of asset if there's not a cohesiveness to your messaging. I love that you said different versions of your media kit. And let's just talk all the way down to your what we call a pro sheet. A lot of people will call them a one sheet, and yes, they are still very relevant. We can have a whole conversation on that one at any time. But many speakers will come to our agency with their one sheet already done. We actually recreate them within our organization, within our agency, whether it's a beautifully done one or not, because for that exact reason, we customize it every single time we pitch them. We need to go in and change the wording just a bit, right? Change the focus and the emphasis just a bit so that it's relevant to that engagement. It's not a one and done. So different speakers have different kind of different basket of assets.
Yeah.
What to you are the most critical pieces in a speaker's basket of assets? And what do you utilize the most? What do you see gets the most traction out of what you have available for those potential speaking engagements?
Well, the one sheet is critical, but beyond the one sheet, I want to encourage everyone to invest in up-to-date professional photography.
Yes.
Nothing is more off-putting than a beautifully graphic designed one sheet with great marketing messaging attached to it with some photos. And then you meet the person on Zoom or in person, and you're taken aback because the person that was represented on the one sheet or their LinkedIn profile or their social media presence is very different than who you're meeting in person. And that immediately you're losing marks for trustworthiness. You just are. You're saying that, you're basically saying to these event planners, oh, accept me for who I am, or I didn't have time to, or I didn't want to invest in new photos. When in reality, that event planner is going to be using those marketing assets to sell their event. And you need to provide them with some excellent assets for them to help them close more sales and sell more tickets. And by sharing your photos that are 2, 3, 4 years old, it doesn't bode well for you or that event.
Sure. Key. Okay. There's a couple layers here. So you can have an older photo that no longer looks like you. Your hairstyle might be entirely different. It might be a 10-year-old photo when you were 20 years later, whatever it might be, 20 wrinkles less. Be relevant, be current, be real. And that trustworthiness piece is everything, right? If there's just that slight feeling like, oh, wait a minute, I feel like I was a little misled here. That's a killer. That takes you from that maybe list to, it's not worth the gamble.
Now it's questionable. Now you're questionable because
questionable.
Now that event planner is thinking, well, did they also embellish what's written here on their one sheet? Are they embellishing on their level of mastery? Are they embellishing whether or not they're actually an expert in this arena? Am I going to get them on stage and be disappointed because they're offering a mediocre, canned message that you can find anywhere? I'm looking for unique speakers. I'm looking for people that have a unique point of view and who take a stance on it. And what it really does is it's not positioning you well whatsoever. And it all stems from out of date photos. I mean, come on, people. It's one of the simplest things you can do and you don't have to hire the most expensive professional photographer within your region, but don't, call up your cousin Henry and ask him to come over and take photos of you in the backyard and then call that done. No, you need to have a photographer who can work with your body, your facial structure, lighting, clothing. You want them, that's what you're paying for with a photographer, is for them to give you the best complimentary image of you that they possibly can without thinking you're going to, you're not going to be photoshopped. You're not going to look like you're AI generated. It's really you. And it's authentically you. That's really what you're looking for.
Yes, personality, right? So don't wear a dress if you're not going to be wearing a dress on stage, if that's not you. Don't wear a 3-piece suit if you're going to show up in a Hawaii shirt because that's part of your talk, right?
Yeah.
Show up in your photos how you show up on stage so they really can get that feel of your personality, what they're really buying into, right? They may not buy the perfectly polished, suited up male or female. They may want more liveliness at their engagement. And you've just, number one, misrepresented how you're really going to honestly show up. And number two, kind of killed yourself because they didn't get to see your personality. They killed that opportunity because they didn't. So show your personality in your photos. Polished and perfection is not what the market is looking for. They're looking for personality, for authenticity, for what they're really going to get. They want the sure bet. No surprises. This industry is not about surprises. They want to know exactly what they're getting. And that starts with those photos and how you present yourself in that marketing literature.
Sure.
And you're exactly right, Shelli. It does not take a lot of money anymore.
It does not take a lot of money. It takes some good questioning and some good research. And so the other thing I would encourage all of us to do as speakers is when you are offered a position to come in and speak on someone's stage, one of the questions that you should be asking is what's your definition of dressing appropriately for your event? Because even though you have a style, you want to be relevant to the audience that is there.
Oh, good.
So always ask, would you prefer a more formal business attire? Do you prefer more casual? Do you, no jeans allowed? Like I really despise ripped jeans.
I don't get it. You pay $100 for jeans that are already need to be thrown away.
It's just not my thing. But as someone who's there to serve the event planner and that organization and those brands that are sponsoring the event, it's absolutely, relationship building 101 to ask the person, is there something that how can I show up in a way that you'd be delighted that I showed up, right? So, I've been at events where people have gotten on stage in bare feet and the event planner is mortified, absolutely mortified that this young girl trucked up there to do her presentation, in a really cute boho outfit on. It was definitely her style, but there she is in bare feet in a conference center, right? So
insurance issues, all kinds of possible issues
the whole
there.
Things. And obviously that young girl needed a coach, right? She needed someone who was going to pull her side and kind of give her a little bit of coaching. The other thing I would encourage you to ask is, are there specific colors that you'd like me to refrain from wearing, right? So often brands would love to have all of their speakers wearing something that represents the colors, the color palette of a particular large sponsorship brand, right? So ask for those things, because if you could tuck a scarf around your neck that's complementary to that brand of colors, if you could wear a jacket or a pair of shoes. Like, you're looking for this cohesiveness. How could I help you with the cohesiveness of this event? And
Yes.
you're demonstrating how flexible you're going to be, that even though you are on brand and you probably have your own branding colors that you like to wear, you're definitely able to put that aside or come up with the style that actually is a win-win for both. So how could you dress appropriately that is perfectly on brand for you, but not so off brand for the event or those big sponsors at that event? You've got
Or worse, the colors of their competitors.
Yes, because that's confusing too, right? We need to think about the audience. So it's all these little questions that you can ask. And as event planners, I would be encouraging the event planners to actually include those little tidbits of, just incredible clear direction. Include that in your speaker agreements. Put those items in. No bare feet. We would prefer our speakers to have one item of clothing that is hot pink, because our sponsor this year is company XYZ, and their big recognizable branding color is hot pink. Just weave that right into the speaker agreement and be totally upfront about it. Because if you are a collaborative individual that's looking for more speaking opportunities, you will be flexible and you will be delighted to show up and meet those expectations.
Oh, just brilliant. Yes. And, it could be a cause. It could be
Yes.
that this event is going to be giving a certain amount or percentage of their proceeds to fund cancer research, whatever it is. So a little pink something kind of helps the through line with that. So I love that you're speaking not only to the speakers, but to those organizers. We have quite a few agents and event organizers who listen to this show. So take notes on that. I absolutely think that's brilliant. I honestly, as a former organizer, did not ever even think about that, right? Bringing a through line. How neat. Like, I just think that could be fun and in a fun, gimmicky way, right?
We'll often
build camaraderie.
It does. And we often think about those branded colors to match the cause or the organization or the sponsor. We'll think about having, navy blue pens or navy blue notebooks or a navy blue slide decks that are, the cohesiveness with this slide decks and the materials. But we don't often ask our speakers to also help us with creating this cohesiveness. And most people, when you ask them to do something for you, they're going to be delighted to do it. You just need to tell them what it is that you're getting paid to do, because let's not forget, you're being paid to deliver outcomes at these events. And part of that are all these other little nuances that will help you stand out, and they'll help you get those reoccurring invitations because you've been so helpful, because you've been so flexible, and because you put others first. You weren't there walking in, just in time to get on stage and then exiting and hitting the, getting on the plane and leaving.
Yes, please.
You're
don't
there.
Do that.
No, you're there to add value before the event, during the event, and after the event.
Yes. Oh, yes, you are singing to the choir here. I just so agree with that. And you're doing the event host, the audience a disservice by doing that, but you're also doing yourself a disservice by doing that, because your next best engagement generally comes from your last best engagement. Yes. So you run in there, be a diva, do your talk and run out. You've just lost on all kinds of opportunities. Tell us a little bit about your show, the Stacking Your Team podcast. What caused you to even venture there? Because podcasts are notoriously labor heavy and revenue light, but you've made a splash. I mean, you obviously have a very strong following. And in a very relatively short amount of time, 5 to 6 years, I think it is. Where can people find it? I'm assuming you're on all the majors. Are you on YouTube? Is it at the The stackingyourteampodcast.com, like all the things.
Yeah,
Tell us.
everything is stackingyourteam.com. And the whole premise of launching the podcast was really to help those women who were starting a small business, were starting to grow, and they had started to realize that they can't do it alone. So they need additional people to come into the business to support them. And that's really morphed over into my mastery area, which is helping small business owners introduce a leadership team so that the leadership team runs the day-to-day operations so that she doesn't have to. And then she can go and write a book. She can become a speaker. She could focus in on doing morning TV shows. She could launch a complementary secondary business because she now has the room, the white space on her calendar and the headspace to be able to think creatively again, because she's got a really stellar team that's running her day-to-day operations. And I just love it. I love seeing women who come to me very weary, worn out, and often very controlling. And then I help them start to let go of control, put the right people in those leadership roles, give them the coaching and the tools in order to be successful at it. And then little by little, she starts to step back out. And then she starts to realize, oh my goodness, I should have done this years ago. That is typically the comment I hear the most. I should have done this years ago.
So why wait? Start listening to the Stacking Your Team podcast
Absolutely.
and get on the move. All right. If you can leave our audience with one final challenge, right? One final piece of gold that they can walk away from. You've already given us so much. But as you know, this show is SPEAKPact, and it's all about making a pact, a universal pact to get your best voice out there, to make a difference, to make that impact. And by making that impact, making the revenue that sustains the impact so you can keep getting your voice out there. What is one key thing that every emerging speaker can do that will help move them in that direction?
Well, I think one of the things that you do is start to create some signature phrases and repeat those signature phrases. They become who you are, you own them, and they're very recognizable. So on the Stacking Your Team podcast, from the minute it launched over 6 years ago, I'm always reminding my audience that the team that got you here may not be the team that will get you there. And that has become a signature phrase. So it's the whole idea where I'm giving those small business owners permission to realize that the people that you hired on your team when you first opened your doors, likely someone from the soccer field, your best friend from high school, a neighbor down the street. As your business grew and the demands and the pace changed, it's very okay to realize, oh my goodness, this person was so wonderful and so impactful up to this point, but I need to bless and release them and bring in someone else who can work alongside me so that we can move the business to the next level. It's very, very, very normal to have your business require different skill sets, different levels of experience, and different mastery as your business grows. And, sometimes people that came on with you early, if they're the type of person that is a continual learner, they have a high level of energy, a high level of curiosity, and they love what you're doing and they want to continue to add value, they will grow alongside you and they can keep up to pace with you. But oftentimes it's the opposite, where you literally feel that the people that you hired in originally, you're having to reach back and drag them up alongside you. And that becomes incredibly exhausting. And without a doubt, you're tolerating underperforming people on your team because you feel obligated to them. I hear things all the time. Well, she's been with me since day one. Or, when I moved into that region, she helped me launch that over there. There's as women, we have a high level of obligation towards other people, especially if it's another woman. But that phrase, the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there, is my way of giving everyone permission to evolve your team because you have evolved. You're not the same person when you started your business. And you've been able to evolve. You've been able to keep up with it. You've tried a few things. You've failed. You've adjusted. You've moved on. And so the team needs to too.
And bless and release. That was beautifully said and so true. And I like the fact that you recognize that it's harder for women to do that. We do get very loyal and devoted. It can be a family member, right? It can be, like you said, a childhood friend or somebody who really did make a key difference in a phase of your career. And you certainly want to give more than you receive, but not hold on to something that's either dragging you down or holding you back, because what you're doing the same thing to them.
Yeah, you're doing a disservice for them, really.
Yes.
So if you could come up with one or two signature phrases and weave those phrases into not only your speaking opportunities, but within your writings, if you're guesting on a podcast, if you're creating your own social media posts, really own those few phrases, and they will become so entwined with who you are that it really does help people recognize you, and they will feel like you'll either immediately attract them or repel them. Either way, but it's good. Like either outcome is good. But what you're creating is this recognizable little ditty in their ear. Kind of reminds you of back in the old days when we could rhyme off every commercial there was on TV. Right? We probably still could. If we heard the first couple of notes, we could probably recall what that commercial is. You're doing the same thing for yourself by creating a couple of key phrases that become your signature phrases that you use all the time. And it really helps people feel connected to you.
Be quotable, right? Let's be quotable. Yeah. I hired every new level of my career. I always hire a business consultant to bring me to that next level. And I had one that said to me, stop quoting everybody else, start quoting yourself. And I know there's a balance there. If you're only ever quoting yourself, that could be off balance, right? But we don't quote ourselves. Like we don't have, I don't know, humility.
But we're honored when people do. Like one of my most favorite thing is when people come to me and they'll, they just say those words back to me, and I get a kick out of it every time. But they'll say, please don't stop saying that on every episode, because I need to hear it every week, even though intellectually they got it. But in here, they need to keep hearing it every week. Yeah.
Yes. Oh gosh, so much goodness here. Thank you for your time today, Shelli. This has been a rich experience. Thank you for pouring into my audience and being so open to share your journey with us. I so appreciate you.
Well, thank you. It's been wonderful to meet you.
You as well. And the way that you can give Shelli and I both flowers is to, number one, go to her podcast and make sure to listen and subscribe and all the things. And definitely with SpeakPact as well, give us those 5 stars, give us those thumbs up, click the bell, wherever it is that happens to be your favorite place, because little effort from you can actually make a big difference in who actually discovers and finds these solutions that we spend a lot of hours putting out there for you, and out of the depths of our hearts, right? We want to get this information. So just that little bit of help on your side helps other people find us. So we just thank you for being with us today. We honor your most valuable, unrenewable resource, right? Your time. Thank you for being with us. And I know that you found great value in it. Ciao, ciao for now.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the SpeakPact podcast. To become a recommended speaker of Antoniette's WPC speaker agency, or you are a host or planner looking for a dynamic expert in optimized performance, Antoniette would like to personally meet with you. secure a time with her at speakerbooker.com. Again, that is speakerbooker.com. It all begins with a vision, a voice, and a pact to impact. Join the SpeakPact movement by joining our new private Facebook group at the link in our show notes. Find us on nearly every social media platform at One Antoniette. That's number 1, ANTONIETTE, or simply hashtag SpeakPact.